What is up, everybody, and welcome back. Have you been keeping up with Ink Master? Well, today we're breaking down episode 3's tattoos, so let's get it. Once again, welcome back. If you haven't had a chance to check out our episode 1 and 2 breakdown of Ink Master tattoos, you can do so right here. But essentially what we're doing is breaking down some of the tattoos that were seen on each episode. Real quick, if you guys haven't seen the 3rd episode of Ink Master, go do that now. If you're not too worried about spoilers, then hang around. First up, we've got this cross-stitch tattoo from Stephanie. And the word of the day was creativity. But the client did want a cross-stitch tattoo, so Stephanie didn't have to think too hard. But this is a well-done tattoo, and Stephanie gave the client exactly what she wanted. I do like the effect of glass being over the cross-stitch, and I think Stephanie did that really well. I do weirdly like how all the words are 4 letters. It just keeps it nice and cohesive. And it probably made it a lot easier for her to fit all those letters in one space. Some of the letters do look a little different, like the S's and A's aren't all the same. But I guess that does make it a bit more organic feeling and a bit more realistic. The flowers are a nice touch, they're nice and soft, and the overall tattoo does have a nice vintage feel. I also like how she added some caramel colors to that frame, just making it feel like metal. I think she mentioned that initially she wanted to add an outline around the flowers, but I like the fact that she didn't because it does keep them nice and soft. And normally I love outlines around everything, even if it's just a gray wash outline, but it played really well in this tattoo. I do think she could have used a little more outline around the ribbon, especially at the top, because it does end up a bit too soft for my liking, with that part in particular. But overall, this tattoo's solid, and it allowed her to be a contender for Tattoo of the Day. So I gotta give her props. Great job, Stephanie. Up next, we'll talk about my tattoo. When I was initially given this client, he wanted a French phrase on his stomach, and I think that was a bit of a shot from the Young Guns. It seems like they were trying to give me something that I might be uncomfortable with. Luckily for me, we got to move it to his leg, and that made this tattoo so much easier. In this competition, you want to try to avoid stomachs and ribs at all costs, because those can send you home really quick. Initially, when all the clients came out, I was wondering how I was going to turn lettering into a creative piece of art. I've done patches before, I've done stickers, so I was thinking maybe I would go that route. And after talking to Kat, she suggested I should go with a patch since it is we reap what we sow. So it was a no-brainer. Thanks, Kat. Now, as far as the tattoo itself goes, I do wish I made the needle a little bit bigger because it was almost too small to add any kind of detail, and it does look a little weak. I really could have played with perspective there, made it come out a bit, again, making it bigger, just giving it more room for more color. Another thing I wish I did differently in this tattoo is change the direction of this threading underneath the U and the M. I wish I just rounded it off under the U more and above the M, making it look more natural. But once I get started, again, time is a beast in this competition, and I couldn't really do anything about it. Luckily, the judges completely missed it, and they gave me Tattoo of the Day. I do really like the effect on top, how it looks like it's peeling off, revealing those stitch holes. I'm pretty smart. Something that the judges brought up that didn't make the cut was they wished I added some extra color in this tattoo somehow or another, whether it be on some sort of cloth background or something like that, but I gotta agree with them. Although I do like the black and white, I do think it could use a little bit of color. But I always try to give the client what they want, within reason, and I'm super stoked with the outcome. So let's check out Jenna's, the graffiti name tattoo, or should I say 3 tattoos. Nope, obviously I gotta agree with the judges, this does feel a bit too separate for my taste. I do wish these tattoos were almost touching, it would make it feel a lot more cohesive. And I will say it is weird only having the shadow underneath the 2 B's and not the A or the Y. If you're gonna put it in one spot, you gotta put it everywhere. I do like the little chicken at the bottom right. I think it's a nice touch. It's supposed to be for the client's kids, and it does look like a kid's drawing, so it works. I almost feel like the and symbol is unnecessary. Just throw the 3 names on there and call it a day. I do think the Max does look quite a bit different than the Abby and Ray, how they're more bubble letters. I think if Max was moved to the middle, it would have a nicer layout. Then you'd have bubble letter, flat letter, and then bubble letters again. Or just make Max bubble letters. I just think moving these names closer together and this thing would be all right. All right, real quick, I want to take a break and give a shout out to the sponsor of our channel, Mad Rabbit. Mad Rabbit is a tattoo aftercare company that has something for everyone. Whether you're a new tattooer or a longtime veteran, they've got you covered. So head on over to madrabbit.com and check out all they have to offer. And be sure to use code PONY20 to save 20% off your entire order. All right, let's get back to it. Up next, we've got Lucy's stomach tattoo that says, "So live agent." Whatever it says, this thing came out stupid clean. We saw that Lucy was struggling with her client a bit, trying to come up with something creative because it was creative day, but it's not really what the client wanted, so I think Lucy had probably the toughest day of all. Not only did she not get to show her creativity, but she also had to tattoo a stomach, which is miserable for all parties. This tattoo is huge, and Lucy already started an hour and a half late or so, So she had a lot of work ahead of her, but she pulled it off. One little detail that might get overlooked is this little paper plane to the right, and I like how it looks like it's almost pulling those points through the entire word. Nice touch, Lucy. If you watch the show, you'd know that the client wasn't having the best of times, but a little bird told me that she did come back and apologize to some producers, and she was super ecstatic about her tattoo. As she should be. This thing is rock solid. Also, if you had a stomach tattoo, you'd realize why she wasn't having the best of times. But killer job, Luce. On to the next one. Here we've got some graffiti style letters from Joseph, and this one really showed off his creativity. As far as design goes, this thing shows a lot of flair. There are a couple little hiccups here and there, like the saturation, but this thing is super huge. He was trying to get through a lot in a little bit of time. That's something I never really thought about when I watched the show previously, is how can you not saturate certain areas? But then when you're actually in that seat, you don't realize how fast time is going by. So normally I would rip tattoos apart for that, but being in the same seat as Joseph was, I know how difficult that tattoo was. And it was huge. And I love how Joseph chose to do these like wonky, warpy graffiti style letters at top, and then he did these like almost zigzaggy lines on the bottom. It's got a really good contrast. The sucker in the background was a nice touch, but I do think it ate up a little bit more time than Joseph had, and you probably could have used that time to saturate those letters more. But you can tell this tattoo is right up Joseph's alley, and the client's got to be super proud to wear this thing. Up next, we've got Play the Hand You're Dealt, a tattoo done by Anthony. And before I critique this tattoo, remember the word of the day was creativity. So doing just script on the side of the arm really fell short for me. It was nice to see that Anthony drew this tattoo to fit that part of the arm, but I wish there were some other element at play, whether it be a stack of poker chips, some cards, something along those lines to where it's not just script. But the judges knew what they were doing when they called out being creative with lettering tattoos. That's not easy. Anthony is an amazing tattooer, no doubt about it, but he probably hasn't done a tattoo like this since his apprenticeship, and it shows. Sorry, buddy. I'm very curious what this little booger is underneath A. I don't really know where it belongs, or why it's there. I don't know if it was just to fill space or what, I just can't tell what it's coming from. It's like a weird backwards comma floating out the middle of nowhere. One other thing that kind of bothers me a little bit is the way that these three lines come off the T at the very end, and how that one kind of just seems to be by itself floating out in the middle of space. But it's not that big of a deal. But I have to remind everyone that in a competition like this, when you're throwing something that you don't normally do or haven't done in an extremely long time, it can be terrifying. And I will say we were all shitting our pants when the judges said we were doing script. Because script is one of those things where there's not really any room for error. If you f it up, you're gonna notice. So maybe not Anthony's best showing, but it's really not a bad tattoo. So once again, go check out episode 3 of Ink Master, streaming now on Paramount+. There were a lot of script tattoos that we didn't have a chance to go over, and I tried my best not to spoil anything. So you're gonna have to tune in to find out. And also make sure to go check out and follow each and every one of these tattooers because they all do amazing work. This season was absolutely stacked. But once again, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will see you guys next week.